You can come out.
Hi Garden Talk bloggers, it is August, the dog days of summer. And we're going to give you some great tips today about how to find the perfect shade tree that will work in your landscape. You know, summers like this that it's been hotter than Hades, the beautiful shade of a tree has been a wonderful experience to have. And a lot of times when we think about shade trees, we only think about trees that grow fast. But a lot of times the way a tree grows depends on a couple different things. One is the genetics of the tree, also the site conditions in which you're trying to grow the tree, and also the branch structure. I'm going to show you a lot of really neat trees today, so you better take lots of notes. And we're going to talk about how each of these trees work in different situations in the landscape. What I'm standing next to on my right and my left is a wonderful new maple called Red Point. With an introduction from J. Frank Schmidt and Son out in Oregon. And this tree has what I consider one of the best branch structures that money can buy, a good central leader system. This is incredibly important when it comes to trees having good wind structure, particularly during wind events. But Red Point is one that's fabulous from the standpoint is that it grows continuously throughout the season. Unlike other red maples that only grow in the spring, Red Point is one that has a beautiful conical shape and most importantly will grow very fast in your landscape. Site conditions, full sun, moderately drained soils will work, and even slightly wet soils will work for Red Point maple. We grow this in balled and burlap sizes as well as in container sizes. Also, another really fun tree, and this is one that you don't find very often, but we're quite impressed with it. This is Japanese Emperor Oak. This species I waited nearly 3 years to get the germinated acorns to grow it in the field. And this group of plantings that you're seeing here, and if Shawnee kind of show down the wildlife, this planting is only about 3.5 years old. What's spectacular about it is a lot of these trees are pushing nearly 8 to 9 feet in 3 years. They got good branch structure, great leaves, and I will tell you that I believe the Japanese Emperor Oak will pretty much grow in almost any full sun site here in southwest Ohio, barring an area that's really damp. But if you've got clay type of soils that are wet in the spring but dry in the summer, I think this tree will be spectacular to give you shade in the landscape. And to our right, this is another tree that's ornamental by nature, but also is a tree that can provide shade for a smaller landscape. And this is autumn flowering cherry, one of my personal favorites. A really cool tree from the standpoint is that it flowers in the months of November and December, will reflower in January and February, particularly if we get a season where we get warmer temperatures in the wintertime, and then flowers for about 3 to 4 weeks in the spring of the year. An autumn flowering cherry also is a tree that gets about 15 by 15, 20 by 20 in the landscape, and can provide your garden a little bit of shade in the summer months, and beautiful foliage on it and a good growth rate at that. Likes a site that's well drained to fairly well drained. Won't tolerate a lot of real wet soils, but works in most sites here in southwest Ohio. Let's take a look at the rest of the nursery. The next tree we're going to look at is Zakova. Zakova is a wonderful tree because it has a wonderful, what I call kind of a V shape to it. This is a plant variety called Wireless. What's exciting about Wireless is this is one that would literally grow underneath overhead utilities, would fit under those overhead utilities, and provides a nice V shape, also a nice shade canopy. You could use this plant where you have like an overhead utility going into your backyard and maybe you wanted some shade on a deck or a patio. Wireless Zakova works very well in that regard. The next tree that we're going to look at today is called Macchia. And Macchia is one of those that has a good growth rate to it and also flowers during the month of August. These are not in flower because they've been sheared, but it provides a nice glossy green foliage and will work many times in very tight street situations and even under overhead utilities. Another tree that will work in your landscape and makes a great screen is Dawn Redwood. The botanical name for dawn redwood is Metasequoia cryptostravoides. Don't laugh. That's the name of it. But it's a neat tree that literally has prehistoric roots, has a nice strong central leader system. And this is a tree, ladies and gentlemen, that will work well providing you screening effects and will tolerate most soils here in southwest Ohio. A very fast grower. We typically see 2 to 3 feet of growth on this tree on an annual basis. It would make a marvelous screening tree, but with kind of a narrow habit to it. Typically gets about 10 to 15 feet wide and can get as tall as nearly 80 to 100 feet when it's fully mature. A spectacular species, a great plant to use in screening effects. The only real cool thing about it is it's a deciduous conifer, which means it's a tree that loses its needles in the fall of the year, with beautiful oranges and golds throughout, and then in the winter time has this beautiful exfoliating foliage on the bark tissue. Come on, Shauna, run! This tree right here is probably our #1 seller when it comes to fast-growing shade trees. This is autumn blaze maple. Autumn blaze maple is a spectacular cross between red maple and silver maple. It's a tree that literally will adapt to the wettest sites or the driest sites. And if you're looking for a plant that can give you quick shade in very difficult growing conditions, you cannot beat autumn blaze maple. The only thing that I need to share with you about autumn blaze maple that's probably its greatest concern is pruning and training. Here at Mark Roberts Landscaping, we spend a lot of time trying to develop central leader trees. This is one tree, because of its silver maple heritage, typically can get a little wild and unruly, much like the teenage kids that work for me from time to time. But the secret is that it needs to be visited by a certified arborist from time to time to keep it into that central leader growth habit. But makes a spectacular show in the autumn season. Another fast-growing tree that will work in a wonderful situation in most sites here in southwest Ohio, and is one of my personal favorites when it comes to giving folks lots of instant shade, is swamp white oak. Swamp white oak has a lot of interesting characteristics, and Sean, if we could get a little closer with the camera to show everybody, it has this beautiful, beautiful foliage on it that's nice and shiny. But when you flip the leaf back over, it has this beautiful tomentose on the leaf. The cool thing about swamp white oak is a rapid growing oak. A lot of people, when they hear the word oak, they think of a slow growing tree. Swamp white is fast growing. The other thing that's cool about swamp white is it has great branch structure, and also the species also has some pretty interesting winter characteristics, which means that when the leaves turn brown in the fall with oranges and golden yellows to bronzes, the leaves stay attached all winter long, which gives you a spectacular show for the winter season. And then when spring arrives, the new leaves just fall off, the new leaves form, you chop them up with a mower, and it's a very much a really easy to grow tree. And again, this one is called swamp white oak. Another really cool tree, and this is one that, I'll be quite frank with you, I think is one that we don't see enough of. This is forest pansy redbud. Very similar to our native redbud, but the really cool thing about forest pansy is the new foliage on it is bright purple. And the nice thing about forest pansy is it's a tree that you could grow in a small patio setting. It will provide you some limited filtered shade, and because it's a legume like most redbuds are, it's one that's pretty adaptable to most site conditions and work really well at providing your landscape a lot of color, particularly in the spring with its flowers, and then later on with its foliage throughout the summer months. It makes a great addition to most full sun landscapes. The next tree that we're going to talk about today is a really cool one. Come on, Shauna. And I will have to tell you, one tree that cannot be beat in the fall with fall color is American sweet gum. Now, a lot of you that are watching right now are going, Mark, American sweet gum, all these balls, they make such a mess. Well, good news. Happy Days is here. This is a sweet gum called Happy Days. Happy Days is a selection that came out of Clarksville, Tennessee, and it's an exciting one because it is one that does not bear fruit. Yes, a fruitless sweet gum. It's a wonderful selection, and in the fall this plant is beautiful oranges and reds and pinks and lasts for nearly 4 weeks. I would plant this plant in a full sun location. I would also use it in a place the soils are moderately to well drained. And this American sweet gum called Happy Days is a great selection for your landscape as well as many landscapes looking for a spectacular fall color. We're going to walk over next to talk about a tree that does not get to be utilized very much anymore, but I think has some wonderful attributes to it. It's honey locust. Honey locust is a native, and the selections that we grow as nursery folks are ones that have no thorns and no seed pods, but provide a quick growing tree providing filtered shade. Honey locust, there are varieties that are completely green like this Shade Master, and there's other varieties like Sunburst that have brilliant golden leaves on the new growth throughout the growing season. If you're looking again for a plant that's tolerant of wet, heavy clay soils, a rapid grower, the honey locust family is an excellent choice to use in your home landscape. The next tree that we're going to look at is a really cool one. It's called a Miabi maple. And Miabi maple is a really tough cookie. It has good strong branch structure, really nice glossy green leaves on it, and makes an excellent addition to a very tough urban site. So if you live in a place that the soils are rough, but you've got a little room to provide a lot of shade into the landscape, you may think about a Miabi maple to add to your garden landscape. Well, thank you all for being here today for this little talk about how to find the perfect tree. And as always, join me on Saturday mornings from 6 a.m. until 9 a.m. on News Talk Radio WHIO as we do Garden Talk Live. Until next time, have a great day and make sure all your gardening is happy gardening.